That's good, dude.
Welcome to the Hoops Royalty Podcast, bringing you Royal Takes live from the 901. I'm Karnav Venkatraj alongside King Jemison. Big Game 5 win for the Grizzlies in the FedEx Forum. We whooped that trick. The Grizzlies looked great. Ja looked amazing. He played with swag. He got to the rim. He shot some three-pointers. He looked just all around, all NBA type dude tonight. But he had someone alongside him too. Desmond Bane, all NBA scorer, looked sick out there. Looked like he was aggressive, getting to the rim, taking shots when he needed to. And Triple J was there too. No, I'm just kidding. He had a great game. 18 points, 10 rebounds. Can't hate on it. But just like we do in every episode, we have a royal decree today from King Jemison. Go ahead, King. Take it away with the royal decree.
My royal decree is, if Luke Kennard's shoulder is healthy, because he did have his left shoulder in a heavy ice wrap and did leave this game in the second half. But if he's healthy, Luke Kennard should start over Dylan Brooks. Luke Kennard was a plus 26 in this game. That's with scoring only 6 points because he draws a defender out of the paint. And frankly, he's doing enough on defense and on the boards that he's not hurting you there. So the spacing he provides, even when he's not getting shots up, is so valuable. He thought he was going to get in LeBron's head. Instead, he just got in his own. It's time to make this shift, Taylor Jenkins. Start Luke Kennard, and let's get this thing back to a Game 7. Do you stamp this royal decree?
I cannot stamp it hard enough. And one thing we talked about in the halftime kind of interaction that we had or live that we went on Instagram was that there's such energy whenever Luke touched the ball. So what we're finding is that even the casual fan knows and wants to see Luke Kennard let that thing fly. I mean, tonight he was great from three-pointer, great from three-point land, 2 for 3, which is, I mean, a great percentage, but you want that number to increase. When there's a stoppage in play, run a play for the man, get the man open, and at times even he looked frustrated because he wasn't getting the ball, which actually is an encouraging sign. That means he's demanding the ball, and I hope what I see from him in Game 6 is that he's more decisive. What I'm really, really hoping for is an X factor for Game 6 from Luke Kennard is a 20-plus point game. What do you think, Kim? Is that possible?
That's going to take like 10 three-point attempts. It's hard to see that happening with the way the Lakers are so committed to running him off the three-point line. But I think he can be effective with a 10 to 15-point game as well, because just the way that he changes the Lakers' defense, it's honestly incredible. It just shows why Memphis Grizzlies fans have yearned for an excellent three-point shooter, really since the grit and grind era. We got one in Desmond Bane, but that's really not enough in the modern NBA. You need more spacing. And the lineup data for these Ja, Des, Luke lineup, because you've got 2 shooters, elite shooters you have to stay attached to the entire possession. And then you've got arguably the best downhill driver in the game. You don't have an option there. And we saw in this game that when Luke Kennard, Desmond Bane, and Ja Morant shared the floor, that both Desmond Bane and Ja Morant had a lot of space to operate with, and those 2 guys were getting to the rim at will. Now in the fourth quarter, after Luke Kennard went out with his injury, that changed. And you saw the fourth quarter, I mean, the Grizzlies didn't need it to be an epic performance, and it wasn't. But it just looked totally different out there with Dylan Brooks, because at this point, they're giving him the Jared Vanderbilt treatment. They are not guarding him. They are daring him to shoot, and shoot he will. He took another 10 three-point attempts in this game, making 2 of them. He went 3 of 15 from the field. It's inexcusable that this guy is out there taking more field goal attempts than Jaren Jackson Jr. That is reason enough to bench this guy and play Kennard.
I absolutely agree. I couldn't agree more. I think what's scary, though, is that the 2 that he hit were kind of in pivotal moments in the game. One was, I think, was late to mid-third quarter, and one was when the Lakers were making a run in the first half. I think just by looking at his swag after he hit that second one, I scared the bejesus out of me. So I think I agree with you. I think Dylan Brooks, the ball stops with what we saw today. I just don't think he's too much of an offensive suck. It was the same thing that we've been saying since really game one. He's too much of an offensive suck. He doesn't provide you enough value on defense to justify his bad offense. But I think we should switch frames and get into the meat and potatoes of what this game was. And that was a John Morant, Desmond Bain game. Talk about what you saw from John Morant today. And I want you to maybe spend a little bit more time telling me what was different about today versus some of those other games. Because I as we were kind of planning for this podcast, I think we both agreed that this performance almost was a little bit impressive than the 5-point performance earlier in the series. So let's jump into that.
I absolutely agree. It was more impressive than the 45-point game, most of all because it's in a winning effort. But he's shooting efficiently again, 50% from the field, 40% from three. He only got to the line 4 times, which says to me more about the officials than it does about John Morant because he was absorbing a lot of contact at the rim. But this was a better game for John Morant because he was smarter. And I was sitting next to my wife throughout this game, Megan. She is really, really good at diagnosing things without having ever played basketball herself because she was a D1 volleyball player. And she has a great feel for the game. And her take was, right from the tip, Ja is being smarter. The reason why she said that is she saw that when he would take it in, he wasn't trying to dunk over LeBron James and Anthony Davis or do the thing where he just leaps up and ends up picking up a charge because instead he was going around and doing that beautiful little off-glass scoop shot that he finishes as effectively as anybody in the game. He was getting his floater game going, and it helps that he's just been really throughout this series hitting his threes. You know, he's well over 40% from three in this series, and that's forcing the Lakers to pull their defense out towards him. Then he's driving it hard to the paint, and again, he's playing smarter. He's not trying to make that highlight play. Instead, he's just trying to get to those mid-range floaters, those scoop shots that he can really generate at any time. And even if there's a pretty strong contest, he's got a good shot at finishing those.
Yeah, and to add on to that, 7 assists, 2 turnovers. He's careful with the ball. He wasn't in the air a whole bunch, kind of throwing the ball away in a lot of sense, court or in that stat line. I think what was interesting for Ja was that, and this has kind of been the knock on him for a little while, at least for me, he made everyone around him. It just was a much more mature game from Ja.
Yeah.
Where he made everyone around him better. He made the right play consistently, which is kind of the big transition from Game 4 to Game 5 was he was able to make the right passes, make the right decisions defensively as well. There was a lot of times, too, where his help defense was just super effective at forcing a bad shot. So even on that side of the floor, John Morant looked better today. Earlier in this series, too, though, King, we talked about a disappearing act with Desmond Bain. He wasn't shooting. Let's jump into Desmond Bain's game. 33 points, 10 rebounds as well, 5 assists, 2 turnovers. He had an overall great game. And I think he actually left some on the table, to be honest with you. I think this could have been a 40-point game if Desmond Bain was hitting at the same clip that he usually does. But today was an incredibly efficient. You can't ask for much more from Desmond Bain. What did you see that was different for tonight?
Desmond Bain is figuring out how to score against a playoff defense. And whatever it means for this series, that's a scary thing for the rest of the Western Conference. Because we've said for a long time in Memphis that the Grizzlies have the best backcourt in the league. And I think that has played out over the last couple regular seasons. The Grizzlies backcourt is up there with anyone. But in the playoffs, so far, or let's say up till the first half of Game 3, Desmond Bain looked uncomfortable in this series. He wasn't able to get going towards the rim like we see him do all season. He had very strange 6 of 18 performances in the first 2 games at home. He wasn't hitting his threes because they were contesting everything, and then, he wasn't even making the open ones. But finally, in the second half of Game 3, he started getting downhill. He started settling in a good way for mid-range pull-ups, where he's elite at that shot. He just doesn't take it that often. And that was really his shot diet in Game 4 was the mid-range pull-up. And then in this one, the three started falling at a higher clip. He was 4 for 9. Once again, he's getting downhill, and he's finishing. In the first 2 games, again, I'm going to give Megan some credit here. She kept on saying, Desmond, stop trying to finish over Anthony Davis. It's not working. And it wasn't. Anthony Davis was owning Desmond Bain at the rim. But not anymore. Bain has figured something out. He's finishing in more creative ways. He's taking the contact and using it to his advantage. And that's just showing the growth of a scorer. This man is a professional bucket.
Yeah, and I think you kind of saw that from the tip, right? He comes down in one of those very first possessions, kind of gives Austin Reeves a move and hits a pull-up jumper. And that's kind of what you want to see. It's a quick bucket. It's an efficient bucket for Desmond Bain. I wouldn't say it maybe defies a little bit of the analytical approach of threes and kind of the focus on that. But the midi works for him. He's a professional bucket. Let him go get that bucket. And then that kind of opened up the floor because after he hits that mid-range, you kind of see him drive to the bucket, use it to John Morant. I think we saw a whole bag from Desmond Bain tonight. He was not one-dimensional. He didn't try to be one-dimensional. All he tried to do was score. And I think that's the mindset that you want Desmond Bain to have going forward. And I think from him in Game 6, I'd love to see maybe more shot attempts and maybe more getting to the rim. He was really efficient from three-point land today, 4 for 9. You really can't ask for much more. So I would love to see the ball more in Desmond Bain's hands. And, he had an incredible, incredible game tonight.
I'm going to push back on that for 1 second. I do want to see the ball more in Desmond Bain's hands, but there's somebody else. And let's throw Luke Kennard out of this conversation because we've said it so many times. He needs to have the ball more. He needs to shoot more. But Jaren Jackson Jr. shouldn't have only 11 field goal attempts in a playoff game because good in this game. 8 points, 2 of 5 from 3, 5 of 11 from the floor. He had 4 offensive rebounds, which when he's going up against Anthony Davis, that's really impressive. He's pulling down some tough rebounds in traffic. Again, not always getting the whistle that I think he deserves in there. He's getting beat up. He did get 6 free throws attempts and made all of them, but I'm going to continue harping on that Jaren doesn't get star calls until it happens. But I just think that you got to run a little bit more offense through him. There were a couple times where they got him isolated on Rui and LeBron, but it was way out past the three-point line, and they didn't really do anything with it. And that could be something. If all 3 of those guys are scoring, what do the Lakers do?
The issue that I find with that is that Jaren Jackson Jr. in this series alone has been very comfortable scoring from the ISO.
Yeah.
Right? So are you saying you take the ball out of – because what you're doing is taking the ball out of Ja and Dez's hands and say, throw it into Jaren, the whistle, if Rui or LeBron, especially LeBron, hacks him. So I think that you run that risk, and that's why I would not be – I would definitely love to – 11 is inexcusable. You're absolutely right. But that uptick, I don't think needs to be drastic like it was in Game 1 where the guy was getting ISOs every time down the court. I don't think that's the move. So I would push back a little bit. I think there's a happy medium between what we're saying, where they're throwing it into the ISO when they need that bucket, but that jump hook that he usually hasn't been falling. He had a couple today that just didn't. They're always short too, by the way.
He's definitely short-arming.
I think he's short-arming. Yeah, exactly. I think he's short-arming.
But I'm just saying, if early in the game, if in the first quarter, you get him a few paint touches,
I agree.
And he bullies LeBron or bullies Hachimura and gets a bucket, then now you can start to play a little bit of inside out too.
Yeah.
Because this game, and it's hard to know how it's going to go in the fourth quarter. the Lakers are going to pack that paint, and they are going to make it really hard for Ja and Dez to drive.
Yeah.
But an option there is if early in the game you've established Jaren in the post, that's going to lead to catch and shoot opportunities, and then they're going to have to pull another defender his way.
Yeah.
Now if you extend them in the fourth quarter behind the 3-point line, there's your driving lanes for Bane and John.
That definitely opens up the game. I agree with you with Jaren. What I fail to kind of see is, or what I hope to see in Game 6. Let's be positive, have a positive mental attitude. Is Jaren get those jump hooks going, open up the floor. He was good from 3-point land, 2 for 5. That's kind of what you expect, 40%. Can't really complain with that. So hopefully we'll see a big game from Jaren. If all three of them, I just don't see all three of them being able to share the ball effectively to where they all three have, huge game. 8 points, we can get that up to 20, 25, maybe even 27.
Well, it's pretty telling that they only had 3 players in double figures today, did the Grizzlies, and it was Bane with 33, Ja with 31, Jackson with 18. Yeah. Nobody else had more than 8. That is what the shot diet and the scoring should look like.
Yeah.
But there's just one thing that keeps jumping out to me, and that is that 3 of 15 from Dylan Brooks.
Oh, my God.
He is a black hole.
Black hole.
And of all the people in the Grizzlies rotation, he and John Conchar were the only ones whose plus minus was negative. Dylan Brooks was a -7 in 30 minutes. All the other starters were in the positive. It's just so clear that he is breaking the offense from within. He's a sleeper agent. And it's really because he's a sleeper agent in his own head.
Yeah.
He has gone from a below-average offensive player to a putrid offensive player. And it's detracting from everybody when he's out there.
The thing that hurts, too, is the guy is missing at the rim. He's missing finishes at the rim.
Yeah.
And they're not heavily contested finishes. They're layups that he should be able to hit. He is definitely in his own head. He has a case of the yips. Something's going on. His mental needs to be shifted, or he needs to be out of Memphis, if we're just being honest.
Yeah.
We'll be like that going forward for the Grizzlies to have this guy starting for us. I'm just being honest. He's a great defender. He does not make up for it on the other end.
And how about the fact that we only had 2 rebounds in this game? In a game where Ja, Jaren, and Dez each have 10 rebounds, they are crashing the glass as a team. Frankly, the reason the Lakers are getting fast break buckets is because the Grizzlies are so focused on team rebounding.
Yeah.
And Dylan is not involved in that. And that's just, again, showing me that something is off with him in this series. Ever since he said what he said about LeBron, there were things he was right about. Let's be clear. LeBron has looked old in a couple of the games in Memphis. But by saying it and by putting such a target on his back, it's ruined the series for him.
I mean, the bottom line is he's been the worst player in the team. That's just the bottom line. He's provided no value. He's been the worst player on the team. It sucks to say because I really like his attitude. I love having a player that's able to talk, but I also love a player that's able to back it up. That I don't think I agree with you, King. I agree with the world decree. He shouldn't start. We should have Luke Kennard have more minutes. He provides more offensive value. And he offsets himself on defense. I want to talk about one guy, though. He's a guy that still maintains a disappearing act, Tyus Jones.
Yeah.
He has just struggled and struggled. 3 points, still plus 12, 2 turnovers, 3 assists. He is struggling. What are you seeing out there, King?
Yeah, the guy who's led the NBA in assist-to-turnover ratio for the last 5 seasons is only 3-2 in that category today. Yeah, it's really interesting because his playoff series against the Timberwolves last year was so good that the Grizzlies were like, we have to re-sign this guy. But the thing people forgot about is that in the Warriors series, he had a similar disappearing act, and I said he looked like a backup. He was pretty good in the game he started in Game 2 in this series, but otherwise has looked like a backup. First of all, there's something this season to the point that Tyus Jones is so much better as a starter. I don't know, but when he comes off the bench, he's just not providing that same level of offense. And I don't even like that his 4 field goal attempts were all 3-pointers. He's an okay 3-point shooter. Had his ups and downs this season, but his best shot is the floater.
Yeah.
And that's a great shot to get against Anthony Davis, an excellent shot blocker. Like, if you can avoid having to go all the way to the rim and shoot it over top of him, that's easy offense. So I just think he's not confident being himself right now, and it has something to do with him not being a starter.
So there's 2 ways to look at it, right? I think you can either say, hey, we're going to limit your minutes even more and get out of this series and build a rhythm on the next one. Or you say, you take a gamble and you say, hey, we're going to increase your minutes, find a rhythm, or lose this game. And I think we all know which category we should probably fall in, especially going into Game 6, especially with how Ja looks, which is, hey, man, that 15 minutes might turn to 10.
Yeah.
If we're just being honest, right? Until we figure this out and you find a rhythm maybe in the next series, Game 1, we can't keep playing you and have just not the efficient passer or scorer that we need. And I completely agree. He hasn't been finding that sweet spot with the floater where he but I just don't think maybe it's the Lakers' game plan or just Tyus Jones struggling in the series. He hasn't been able to find that exact sweet spot that he needs for that floater to drop.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit worried about Tyus, and if we get past the Lakers, which, knock on wood, someone do it while watching this podcast. I think Tyus needs to find his rhythm for us to be effective. Because I don't know how John Desmond, or rather more specifically, Ja's hand will feel. Is there a possibility where, Ja's compromised and Tyus needs to start and what he'll look like? So, I think Tyus, we need to sit him for this series, limit those minutes, and then get a move on for the next series.
Yeah, I think as unconfident as Desmond Bane can look as a primary ball handler,
oh my God,
I still think it might be better to just use him as the backup point guard. And you're already playing him such heavy minutes that it's hard to say, okay, when Ja's off the floor, we'll have Desmond be the point guard. But I'm not saying bench Tyus completely. I'm saying, though, I'm giving him 5 minutes in Game 6. And if at the end of those 5 minutes he's 1 of 4 again and he's not generating those assists that he usually does and he's not hitting his threes or his floaters, then I think you got to go with Bane. And you got to just roll with a more fluid offense that's not really running through a central point guard.
Yeah.
But let me ask you something, Carnum.
Sure.
So we really haven't talked much about the Lakers at all because the Lakers, they get a big game from Anthony Davis, 31 points and 19 rebounds. He was a +6 in this game. Once again, when he's on the floor, the Grizzlies don't really have much of an answer. But LeBron James, just 2 days after this 22-point, 20-rebound game that had the internet popping and, declaring the king in year 20 and yada, 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 he goes 5 of 17 and 1 of 9 from beyond the arc. Actually, interestingly enough, checked himself out with about 5 minutes to go in this game when I believe the margin was 14. So it wasn't over, but LeBron decided it was. Are we giving Dylan Brooks credit for this one? Because he did spend more time on LeBron than Tillman did.
No, because time is undefeated. No, because time is undefeated. No, he looked tired, man. He looked tired. And I think I heard like a lot of Lakers fans probably hedging emotionally that, oh, well, this game's going to be a LeBron rest game. He's not going to try that hard. I mean, 1 for 9 is not anything to do with a rest game, right? He had a terrible game for his 5 assists. I mean, 10 rebounds, 15 points. So it wasn't nothing. But 5 for 17, 37 minutes. He looked out of sorts today. He didn't look explosive at many times. But I also think this is not the game that the Lakers need from him in a lot of sense. I think those emotionally hedging Lakers fans have a point, which is we'll see you in Game 6 in the Staples Center or Crypto Arena. that's when LeBron is going to shine. That's when we expect him to really have his moments. I mean, he just looked old. He didn't look like his usual self. I don't think it'll be like that all series. I think he will come back Friday and have the same playbook they used tonight and adjust that playbook for how explosive he may look in the moment.
Yeah.
And adjust from there.
Well, it was kind of a return to games 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Where basically half of his field goal attempts are coming from three-point land.
Tired.
You love that.
Yeah.
You love that. And if LeBron comes out in Game 6 and makes 5 of 10 threes, you just got to put your hands up and say, well done. Because you have to give that up. And what I noticed from him is he's pushing the pace at every opportunity. And on the one hand, the Grizzlies, as much as they are focusing on team rebounding, they have to find a way to get back in transition. Because, once again, according to Cleaning the Glass, the Lakers added about 7.2 points per 100 possessions. They got 24% of their possessions started with a fast break. That is way too many, and it's showing that the Grizzlies are still, for some reason, not finding a way to get back after missed shots. It really wasn't off turnovers. It was more off long rebounds. But bringing it back to LeBron, he's pushing really hard. His team really hasn't scored that well in the half court of the series, and he personally hasn't scored that well in the half court of this series. We focus on the Grizzlies' half court struggles, and they're real. And I'm not going to pretend like they're going away because they got a 17-point home win. Mm-hmm. But it's a problem for the Lakers, too. So if the Grizzlies can come out and shut off that transition in the first half, I think the Lakers' offense can dry up a little bit, too. And, a mucked-up game probably favors the Grizzlies with the pressure being on the Lakers at home to close out the series in Game 6.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Going back to the LeBron point, the guy is 33.2% from three-point land in the playoffs.
As a career.
A career.
And this year, what is he? 16.7%.
Yeah, so I think we take the three-pointers. I think it's a sign that he's tired. I think that definitely favors the Grizzlies. What I worry about is that he adjusts after this game. The offense runs actually more through him, where they start having him play like point LeBron, and he just tears us up with his passing abilities. I don't think I've seen that all series. I want to talk about one other Laker who is potentially worse than Dylan Brooks, which is saying something, is Dennis Schroeder. He played 19 minutes and was minus 20 with 0 points, 0 turnovers, crazy lack of impact on the game.
See, this is what we were saying before the series. If you read my preview over at Beale Street Bears, if you listened to a lot of the Grizzlies content that was coming out before the series, it's like, okay, look at the backcourts. The Grizzlies have a massive advantage at guard.
Yeah.
That just didn't really play out in the first few games because of Ja's injury, because of Dez not being able to hit shots, and because Austin Reeves has been better than expected. But finally, that advantage is shifting towards the Grizzlies. The backcourt is dominating, as it should. D'Angelo Russell should be made to look too small, like Ja told him over and over again. Dennis Schroeder should be made to look too small, like Josh showed him over and over again. Austin Reeves should be made to look too slow, as Josh showed him over and over again. That's what I'm looking for in Game 6 is can Ja and Bane dominate the game again? Because guys like Schroeder, Reeves, and Russell are good enough players, but they should not be playoff-level defenders.
And speaking of reverting back to the mean, Rui Hachimura, 9 points. Thank God. The guy was shooting it from figured out. He was Rui Hachimura and decided to miss a couple three-pointers.
Yeah. And Austin Reeves, was 4 of 13 in this game. And
watching Austin Reeves play. Sorry, I know this is not going to be analytical in any way. Watching Austin Reeves play basketball sucks.
Makes me want to throw up.
It's not fun. He's falling all over the place. A lot of the Lakers are. They are not like a fun team to watch basketball. Like I don't respect how Austin Reeves plays the game. He's a type of guy who could only be effective if there's like 7 refs and he has a Lakers jersey on. So like, Austin Reeves is not a fun guy to watch. I think he's very effective.
I mean, he's a good player in the modern NBA because the modern NBA rewards floppers.
Yeah. Talk about though, the swag from the team was off the charts today. There was rumors, or not rumors. There was like some tweets that they were playing NBA YoungBoy in the locker room. Whatever y'all were playing, play it again.
Yeah, over and over.
Y'all were live. The energy was there. Jaw calling that man too small was awesome. Xavier Tillman trying to dunk on whoever was awesome. Was it Anthony Davis who tried to dunk?
He tried to dunk on Hachimura, and
Hachimura.
he did. It was just, we were saying it was the most Tillman dunk of all time. Because it didn't really go in. He was still kind of below the rim.
Yeah.
Man, I love Xavier.
Yeah, I mean, he had a fine game too. So I love that swag, that confidence. It just looked like it was there. Even I know Dylan Brooks had a terrible game, but even him celebrating after that 3-pointer, it just felt like the Grizzlies they looked out of sorts in those, even in their wins. But during these games, or during this game, it felt like Grizzlies all year, right? The one that made them 35-6 at home, right? The crowd loved it. Whoop That Trick was playing at the end. They just felt like they were at home. What I want to see is bring that swag to the crypto arena. Please, y'all play so much better when y'all are yelling in people's faces. So what? The national media hates you regardless, right? You're a small market team. You're not going to bring in ratings for ESPN or whoever. You might as well just play with some confidence, play with a little villain in you, but actually be effective. And I think that's what we saw tonight, and that's what I want to see in Game 6, is that villain come out, play with that swag, say bleep you to all the national media, and just go out there and kill the Lakers.
Amen to that. That's another world decree.
Yeah.
We don't usually get to, but let's wrap this up with predictions for Game 6 and the rest of the series. And go ahead and throw in, beyond Kennard, because we've harped on that, what is your single key to Game 6 to go along with your prediction?
John needs to come out there with the same energy that he came with tonight, make the right plays, and have Desmond Bane play off of him. That's how you win Game 6. And that's what I think. Memphis Grizzlies in Game 6. And let me tell you something, Lakers fans. Do not let us win Game 6. Because
you don't want that.
You will have no hope in Game 7.
You don't want that. I
promise you that. End it in the crypto center for y'all's own good. I swear to God, let it end there. Because if not, we're coming for LeBron. We're coming for that career. And Game 7 is ours. I'm predicting a win in Game 6. Grizzlies in 7. Thank you very much. I'll take
Gosh,
that.
I hope you're right. You got me so fired up. But I'm going to stick with my prediction. And I'm going to hope to reverse jinx this thing. I've still got the Lakers closing it out in 6. I've watched this team on the road all season and been heartbroken way too many late nights watching these California games where the Grizzlies have a lead and then lose it in the fourth quarter. I'm afraid that that's what's going to happen again. I don't think the Grizzlies are going to go in and roll over. I think they're going to play well for most of this game, but I'm worried that they're not going to be able to close yet again. That's a downer way to end it, but let me give you my key to the game. Besides starting a healthy Kennard, if that is indeed the case, my key to the game is let's get in their each individual way. Ja, Dez, and Jaren rolling. And I mean, post touches for Jaren. I mean, downhill drives for Ja. I mean, some open threes for Dez. Let's get that all going in the first quarter so that you have diversity on offense. Because we saw the problem in Game 4 was that in the fourth quarter, the Lakers knew what was coming. It was Ja and Dez drives. If you can diversify early on, you're going to have their defense spinning. And that goes to a secondary key here, and that's dominated basically in the first quarter of Games 1, 3, and 4. They have been the aggressor in the first quarters of Games 2 and 5. If you're tracking the series, you're seeing that the first quarter has basically determined who's going to win the game. Let's see it be the Grizzlies in Game 6. Come out and be the aggressor by playing to each of your 3 stars' strengths.
This is what I'll say. I'll hype us back up. The way that the Grizzlies looked tonight felt like a corner was turned, energy-wise. I think they finally, Desmond, Ja, even Jaren, these guys are locked in now. If we can take this game, Game 6, I promise you, if they come back to the FedEx Forum, it's going to be you're going to witness a death of a career. Because that we're taking LeBron's soul, and Game 7 is ours. And look, King is maybe the more pragmatic one. He's never switched. It's gotta feel like the Grizzlies can win this game, and I feel it. Maybe I'm just so hyped up from the FedEx Forum.
Dude, it was so hype in there. Whip that trick and throw the towel around.
Yeah.
It's just, there's nothing like it. Please give us another game of playoff basketball in Memphis, because I think if we get that one game, we're going to get a whole other series of it too. So that's going to do it for us at the Hoops Royalty Podcast. I'm King Jemison alongside Carl Vankitraj. This is your Game 5 instant reaction. Look out for a Game 6 instant reaction coming on Friday. We're bringing you Royals Hoops Takes live from the 901, and we'll see y'all Friday.
Go Grizz.
Go Grizz.